us a little bit about Tyrod Taylor's position? Because coming off the season he had in Buffalo, he comes here, he wants new life, but then they go ahead and they draft a guy like Baker Mayfield, and he knows he's right on his heels as soon as he probably gets this offense, learned and ready to get out there and run.
Well, I think there's a couple of things that are interesting here. First off, it wasn't like he didn't know when he signed with Cleveland that they were going to draft a quarterback.
Yes.
So he knew what he was getting into. Now, I know this as a former player. Draft whoever you want because there is nobody as good as me. So I'm like, I welcome the competition. I'll teach you everything I know because you can't execute it the way I can execute it. So I've always felt that way. Now, eventually he understands that he'll probably be replaced. But remember, he's a playoff quarterback from last year with the Buffalo Bills, okay? That was one of the longest playoff droughts in history. So he has something to his resume. So that's important. The other thing is, you watch Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield was incredible in college. And he's a much better pocket guy than I had anticipated him being. But he took, I believe, 6 snaps from under center his entire career. And you talk to quarterbacks who make that transition, we make it like, oh, it's no big deal. 60% of the offense in the NFL is run out of shotgun.
Well, 99.9% of Baker's offense was run out of shotgun.
Right, but I'm saying there's still 40% that's not. So what you have to understand is every route combination ties up to the footwork that you have from under center in play action. Now, you take shotgun runs. You can eliminate 60% of your offense. You can't run the runs you want to run out of shotgun. 60% of your runs are out the window, which means 60% of your play action is out the window in shotgun. So you have to, in the NFL, in our game, you have to play some from under center. And that's a tough transition. Do I open up? Do I reverse pivot out? It's a 3-step drop. Is it a quick 5? Is it a short 5? Is it a long 5? It's all those things because the routes time up exactly to that footwork out from underneath center and that play action stuff. And guys struggle because think about this now. All of a sudden, you're not thinking about the defense that you're supposed to be reading.
Yep.
You have to turn your back to it and play action. You're not thinking about the defense you're supposed to be reading. You're not thinking about the route combination. You know what you do? You're counting steps. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what these guys do, and it is, I can't tell you how tough that is, and I've never done it, but I've had plenty of guys tell me, dude, all I can think about is this a long 3-step? Is it a quick 3-step? Is it a long 5? Do I have to speed up do I have to speed up my 5-step drop based on we're throwing all hook, and we've got the proper leverage, so now I got to be quicker? You know, all these different things that go on, and that's what they're thinking about. They're not thinking about, hey, what defense are they in? This is why that's such a tough transition. So Tyrod Taylor, back to him, he knows he's got about 6 games.
Oh, wow.
Right? He knows he's got 6 games. Now, if I'm really good in those 6 games, guess what? I'm going to get more. If not, you know what? Hey,
nice
good
meeting you. Yeah.
Good luck.
I think the point you made at the very beginning is an important one to consider when we talk about Tyrod. Tyrod was not going to have 10 teams that he could sign with, but he was going to have more than one. This is a guy that had a 90 quarterback rating over the last 3 years, a little better than that on average. In his NFL career, he's thrown nearly 3 times as many touchdowns to interceptions. And like you said, despite being benched mid-season inexplicably for Nathan Peterman, led the Bills to the playoffs. He signed with the team he knew was going to draft a quarterback #1 overall. And the difference I would compare to when they drafted a guard when you were playing or whatever is, obviously there's only one quarterback, and if you're drafted #1 overall, you're becoming the starter at some point. You might not become the starter forever. It could be a Tim Couch situation, you lose the job, but you're becoming the starter at some point. But what Tyrod also has going for him is this. I mentioned the touchdown interception numbers for a reason. If you watched the Browns last year, the Browns, I know they didn't win again. I get it. But they also were actually not a terrible team between the 20s. And then DeShone Kizer, I don't have his red zone turnover numbers in front of me, but I know at least at the midway point, he was on pace to smash the all-time NFL record for turnovers inside the scoring zone. Like the Browns need someone, at least early in the year, I feel, that they know is not going to cripple them when they are about to get points. That's something Tyrod has going for him as well. Even if they like the high-end talent of Baker Mayfield, it's one of the reasons I think Tyrod has a good shot of being the Week 1 starter.
Sting, you're right about when they draft these players, because every year they're drafting players to replace you. And it might be a little bit different if you're a quarterback, but it's still the same mentality.
Yes.
I'm going to hold down this position. I got bills to pay. I got a contract. No one's going to replace me until they get someone with more talent. That's when you get replaced. And that's with Tyrod. That's his situation. There is someone behind him who's got more arm talent than him. He's got a bigger upside than him. And the Browns don't have the luxury of being able to be patient and wait on Tyrod to get in sync with all the new personnel he's going to have. Baker Mayfield is going to be the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. All right? That's a foregone conclusion. Why Tyrod? He's just not that good. He's undersized. He doesn't have a big arm. He doesn't throw the ball into traffic a lot. So, yeah, his touchdown to interception ratio, it is good, but he doesn't take a lot of chances with the football. And it's hard to win, and it's hard to win on third down when you don't take chances. Now, I believe Cleveland, with Todd Haley taking over as offensive coordinator, removing the play calling from the head coach for the first time, I believe they're going to be more aggressive, and I believe it's going to lead to Baker Mayfield playing early in Cleveland.
Who's got a bigger learning curve here? Tyrod, who's only been with the team a few more months than Baker has, but also Baker, who played a much different game in college.
Yeah, there is no comparison, a college kid coming into an NFL locker room compared to a guy who's been with a couple different organizations.
Right.
Tyrod's got 4 great years backing up there in Baltimore. He's got a couple years of starting there in Buffalo. Even though he's getting used to the personnel, the terminology, what he knows about pro football, I mean, it's like encyclopedias compared to Baker Mayfield. It's like one sheet of paper.
Yeah, the concepts are the concepts. The concepts are universal. Like, I mean, Z-drive is Z-drive is Z-drive, regardless of what you call it. It's still Z-drive, right?
I'm getting ready to cut a guy's knees.
Right. So it's still that concept. You may call it something different, but he's been through those concepts.
Sure.
You coming out of a college spread offense where a lot of the routes that you throw are one receiver routes. Hit that guy, let's roll. So it's a different. There's a difference there.
Let me just ask you one quick follow-up question. To overcome everything you're talking about the coming out of center and understanding the drops, what does Baker need to do? Because that's going to be there, right? He's going to be at a deficit there.
Right.
What does he need to do in training camp and preseason to overcome that to where he could be, as a lot of people think he'll be, the week 1 starter?
It's just reps. It's reps or reps or reps. But the more reps you get, the more comfortable you will become, and the less you have to think. And the more you think, the more paralysis by analysis there is. So you've got to get to that point. But when you're trading reps or sharing reps, that's reps you're not getting.
And one thing I can say about Baker and some of the other guys in this year's draft, they did a great job after the bowl game getting with quarterback gurus that they worked on that before he went to the NFL team.
Football acumen is big with him, though. And he was the one guy talking to the Broncos who had him in the Senior Bowl that said they could give him stuff in the morning, and Baker would take it out to the practice field and execute it that afternoon.
Yeah, photographic memory is what the Cleveland staff thought he had.
See, you'd make a great starting quarterback, Nick.
I don't have a photographic memory. You keep saying that. I got nothing close to that.
I got to take you'd be terrible in the NFL.
I'd pay a lot of money for
terrible in the
memory.
NFL.
It'd be great.
Mark Schlereth, as
Thank
always, great insight, great stuff.
Always
Love having you here. Come back soon tomorrow.
Yes.
Awesome.
I'll be here.
The only starting quarterback playing